Hello guys, and welcome to another video about Blender. In this one, we're going to talk about Blender sculpting. On some level, more like a review or a reaction, right? For like a 3D artist who have been using ZBrush and Maya like forever, but doesn't use Blender a lot at all. Like I think I started learning Blender for only 3 or 4 months. It's not very long. And there's a lot of things that's kind of interesting and new to me in here. So I think my point of view is pretty valid for any artist who wanted to transfer over or just curious on how Blender feels like to do artwork. Okay, so and today we're going to talk about sculpting specifically. Okay, so basically when it comes to Blender, the navigation is similar to some of the packages we're familiar with, like 3ds Max or Model. So navigation will be based on the middle mouse button to drag to rotate or tumble around, shift and middle mouse button to pin, control and middle mouse button to zoom in and out. Okay, that's the basic navigation. Okay. To create new things, just press Shift A or add Shift A, and you can add a bunch of different things like primitives, for example, and I can go for like a UV sphere. And then to move things, hit the G button and start moving. Okay, and this is very controversial compared to all other softwares. It doesn't have gizmos. Okay, if you want to see gizmo, you can go here and toggle gizmo like that to show them all, or you can hit the T button and go to those various tools for move, scale, and rotation. But that's not recommended. I think they want you to do it without the gizmo. So if you want to scale, hit S and start moving your cursor. You can see it's already getting bigger or smaller based on how you're dragging it. Hit R button for rotation. Okay, if you want to specify a specific axis, you can hold down middle mouse button and then hover the cursor on any of the axes. It's going to rotate around that particular axis. Okay. Scale is the same thing. If you want to scale on the z-axis, which is the up and down axis, you can hold down middle mouse button and move the cursor to the z-axis. There, it's not moving to there. It has to be some weird angle to go select that axis for some reason. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. For moving, it's the same thing. Hit G button and holding down middle mouse button, you can then pick an axis to go for. Okay, and there are different coordinate system, or you can hit the comma button to toggle those things. So on some sense, you feel the advantage, you feel the disadvantage compared to Maya, for example. Like one of the huge disadvantages, how do I move the origin? Now the only way I know that's faster is just go to options and change effect only origin, and then you can start moving the origin like that. But in Maya, just holding down D and click anywhere, let's just snap the origin to there. Now this wouldn't be that easy. Okay, so you want to do that, you have to toggle on the snapping, go to the tools like face, for example, line rotation to target, and then you can G and move. You can see that's snapping the origin to there. It's a lot of work, but I'm going to turn those things off. Anyway, so and I can reset the origin by right click and set origin to geometry, I guess. Yeah, this is basically center pivot equivalent compared to Maya. Anyway, so that is just basic stuff. Let's talk about sculpting, of course. So you need to go to sculpting by going to the sculpting land or layout, or you can go here and just toggle change your mode to sculpting mode. You can also hit the holding down the tab button and start moving the cursor. You can see you can go to those various mode by using this marking menu or pie menu as their name in Blender. This is called pie menu. This is called marking menu in Maya. Feels similar, but not exactly the same. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the sculpting mode. When you're sculpting, you can also change your material to matte cap. It feels more like ZBrush in this case. Symmetry is over here. There's no shortcut, but you can right click and assign a shortcut if you wanted to, I believe. Here. Okay. bam, just click on there. You don't toggle that often, I guess. Okay, now to change the brush size, you can hit the F button and drag to change the size, of course. Somehow it looks like it's tilted. I guess that's because the origin is tilted. Okay, so that's not good. I'm gonna go back here to object mode. I guess the origin is tilted, isn't it? Okay, what we're gonna do is right click, set origin to 3D cursor. Doesn't change the orientation of the origin. That's actually new to me. How do I do this? Location to view. Origin should be in here. I guess it's in here. And change that rotation to 0, 0, 0. Huh. Okay, well, let me go back. How about this? We go to edit mode and hit A to select all and right click. No, can't do that. Okay, well, I'm gonna do this then. I'm gonna go for the zero out all the rotations. Okay, and I don't need to have this exact topology, so I'm gonna go to sculpting mode and then Control R to dynamesh it. Okay, and yeah, hit the F button to change the brush size. Right, and then you can start dragging. Oh, of course, you need to use the move brush. That's going to be this guy, or G button for shortcut. You can start dragging things down. So when I'm sculpting, I oftentimes start with dragging the front part of the sphere down and just use a lot of move to get to the basic form of a human head, something like that. Okay, here, what I'm really worrying about or care about is the basic proportion. So nothing fancy here yet. Nothing fancy, just the basic form. I don't know why, but a lot of students hate this chin. Their chin is this, like they're shrinking in, like that. Now, I guess this is because they don't really fully grasp the idea of the form here for the mandible down there. But that's the common issue I see a lot. So make sure that you take care of that. That's the chin is sticking out, right? From the bottom you can see it's an angle there. Okay. Alrighty. And then for the neck, you can hold down M and draw there to create a mask, and then Control I to invert the mask, right? After that, you can start dragging it down by using the move brush. And then Alt M to clear the mask, Control R to dynamesh. So very similar, feels very similar to ZBrush as well. The feeling of the brush and the operations. It's just different shortcuts. One thing that's funny is that when I was trying to do this myself, right, learning the basics and trying to sculpt it in Blender for like just a night or something, and the second day I was actually going back to work, and I want to use ZBrush, of course, because I don't really know how to sculpt properly in Blender yet. I'm just testing and trying to learn it. I have to really adjust my mindset again just to get used to ZBrush again. It just feels weird because I've been using ZBrush for at least 7 years, I think. However, just by one night, I'm already adapted to this new shortcut, and I need some time to get back to ZBrush, which is kind of funny. Okay, anyway, so I'm gonna try to drag this to create the basic bust, of course. And then Control R, right, to redynamesh it. Shift is smoothing. That's very universal. Don't know why they all agree on this. They all agree on shifting is smoothing, but they don't agree on anything else. Don't know why though. I think it would be easier though to have everyone to have the same shortcut combinations for, sculpting, for example. Right, but apparently they're not. They don't like each other, I guess. Anyway. Alright. Similar things can be done with the ear. What I can do is holding down M and draw there to create the mask for the ear. Control I to invert that. Now you're gonna have to admit that ZBrush has the better shortcut combination, or maybe that's just personal preference. I don't know. It's always, always arguable. But I feel like Control and click to invert mask is faster than Control I in this case. But Alt M, right, to clear the mask, and then I can start dragging again to refine the form. Control R again to dynamesh it one more time. Now here you're probably wondering, how do I change the resolution of the dynamesh? Because this is not looking very detailed, right? What you can do is you can go to two settings here or here. That's the N button. You can use the N button to toggle the two bar here on the right. T button is the two bar on the left, on the left. So T and N for those two set menus. But you can also see them in here. Okay. So let me drag it up. Okay. So that's the remesh part that we're trying to do here. Okay. So you have the voxel size, and remesh is basically this thing. If you click on that, you can see that's basically the data mesh. Okay. So of course the voxel size will be determining the resolution. Okay. I'm gonna change that to something like, I don't know, 2 or something. Let's see how we Control R. Oh, I need to reduce that actually. So 0.01 maybe. And Control R. That will give me a lower resolution model. Okay, you can view the wireframe by going to the drop down here. Here maybe, somewhere here. And wireframe. You can see that's how dense it is now. Okay. Probably too dense for now, so 0.05 maybe. And then Control R one more time. Okay. Well, maybe a little bit higher than that. 0.03. Now in ZBrush, Shift F is how you show the wireframe, but here you have to toggle that on. Oh, 0.03. Which is not as fast. Again, I think shortcut wise for sculpting at least, ZBrush nailed it. Anyway, so and also wireframe, if you wanted to, of course, you can go there and say, okay, I want this to be a shortcut that I can reach really quickly. You can right click on this maybe and say, oh, actually I have that in there already. So you right click on here and say add to quick favorites. And then you can hit the Q button, and that's gonna pull up the quick favorites, and you can toggle it like that, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, that also can be in there for the symmetry. Okay. So there's always a way, more or less, to get things go faster the way you want it to be. Okay. Now I have the ear. And I have a fairly dense model, more or less. Now, in terms of how many polygons you can handle with Blender compared to ZBrush, Blender, of course, will lose the competition. No one compete with ZBrush on that. You can also press Shift Space to pull up this big menu on all the brushes, and you can see their shortcut. For example, clay strips will be the clay build-up we're familiar with. It feels very similar. Okay, so you can use that to sculpt. Oh, right, just like a normal ZBrush clay build-up. It feels really similar in this case. Control, of course, is the offset operation. That's Alt in ZBrush. Again, they don't like each other, I guess. Or maybe there's some reasons. I don't see though why it has to be different. Maybe just, I guess, Alt button is occupied. But something else I don't know. But that's just I don't know, but that's just the way it is in Blender. So you just have to get used to it. Okay, to change the intensity of the brush, you can press Shift F, and then that's the intensity. Okay, I feel like it's a bit weaker than I want it to be compared to what I have in ZBrush as the default setting. So I just wanted to get it stronger. And there's a bunch of things that you, so those things are gonna be the equivalent of the vertical icons in ZBrush. So like brush, texture, stroke, right? Those things that's kind of like very similar to ZBrush in this case. For the brush, at least for the clip it up, or what's called clay strips, right? I think you can turn on this accumulation thing. It's already on actually here. Maybe I turn it on. I'm not sure, but this will allow you to build up, keep building up. Okay, but I still think it's not building up enough compared to what ZBrush does. So there is a little different. It feels a bit harder to use. Don't know why though. Okay, now let me go ahead and start defining the facial features. Okay, so I can hold it on Control and drag. That's basically bumping things in like that, right? And then I can use that to dig in the eye socket and start dragging things around to define the shape of the orbit, right? So this is important. You want to make sure that this angle looks right. Or in other words, you know, you got the skeleton underneath, right? Okay. All right, and then of course the cheekbone and the zigmatic arch on the back, right? You can take care of those things. Oh, and also one more thing that's worth mentioning is the distortion you're seeing. That's very common in 3D software, that they make it too much of a distortion here. You hit the N button to pull up the two settings, go to View and change the focal length to 75. That oftentimes is going to reduce the amount of distortion caused by the lens distortion of the camera. So very, very useful. Okay. And once you get used to the shortcut, it feels like really similar to ZBrush's default shortcut. You hit Shift Space to pull up the menu here. You can hit the button there to go to the brush. For example, clay strip is going to be Shift H2. So BCB in ZBrush, it's kind of like 3-button combination, right? But I oftentimes like to use just one shortcut for like a one brush that I use a lot. For example, the clip it up. So what I'm gonna do here is right click and say assign shortcut. I just right click there and assign shortcut. I'm gonna hit the 2 button. Okay, for the move, right click, assign shortcut, 3 button. For this, the first one, that's the default sculpting, right click, assign shortcut. That's gonna be Alt 1 for me. The second one, draw sharp, I believe that's the one. Yeah, that's the damn standard equivalent. I'm gonna make it 1, so right click, assign shortcut, and then 1. So now 1, 2, 3, Alt 1, right? That's gonna be the primary brushes I use a lot. That's also my ZBrush layout, so I kind of wanted to stick to that. It's very easy to assign shortcut in this case, so they did a good job on that. Okay, so just changing the shortcut will make this feel way more like ZBrush, to me at least. I don't know why I cannot really make it strong enough for some reason. It just feels weird. So I guess I have to push it up for the nose. So the clip build up is not the same. I feel like it's losing the ability to build up. Or it's not called clay build up, it's called clay strips. I guess it doesn't have the build up feature, or not really as good as ZBrush on that part, or maybe there's some settings, I don't know. right? So I tend to use move a lot in here instead of Blender. In this case, it feels more common. The move brush is very similar, right? So Control R again to re-dynamesh it. Dynamesh is a bit slow in here, so one thing to be aware of. Side of the nose. Digging in the nostrils with the this thing, the draw sharp, right? Again, if you want to know their default shortcut, just Shift Space, and then you can look for those shortcuts. Oops, what am I doing? I'm using a brush I'm not really want to use. Don't even know what that is. Looks like a retopologizing brush or something. Multiplane script. Very fancy naming. Don't know what that does. Okay. Alrighty. The mouse, right? Let me build that up real quick. Smooth it out. For the mouse, I like to go to this particular angle and just to adjust it. It's going too far, I guess. For now, of course. Probably need to adjust it more in the future. You do feel a lot of restrictions. Like I feel like I can do this way faster in ZBrush. But I guess this is because I'm not familiar with this tool yet. But all in all, it's not really that bad at all. I feel like it can be the tool you want to use when you don't have ZBrush. But when you have ZBrush, I don't see again a reason to use Blender. It's able to do it, but it doesn't really offer any better solutions in this case. Maybe for the better things, like it's able to maybe use its own internal hard surface modeling tools and its own ways of managing scenes, could be more standard. ZBrush is not quite standard on that sense, but ZBrush's way of, every corner you look at ZBrush, they want to support sculpting and make the experience as better as good as possible. Blender, however, has to take care of the UI, the interface, the layout, everything to be also good for anything else, right? For hard surface modeling, for compositing, for video editing even. It does everything, right? You have the, I believe, somewhere here, video editing. You can do what's the thing like? Yeah, you can actually cut, do video cutting and editing here, like a Premiere equivalent. Of course, it doesn't. I believe it's not going to be as good as Premiere on that realm, but it's able to do that, right? Which is amazing. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna go deep into the ear and start to do the internal structure of the ear. It's basically a simple Y shape, right? So I'm not too worried about building that. Of course, in ZBrush, you have those chisel brush. Now you're able to just drag out the ear right away. 3D alphas, right? 3D alphas. I'm not sure if Blender even have that for sculpting. Okay, that's when ZBrush distances itself away from all other packages. It's so focused on sculpting. It's able to offer a lot of cool features. Now Blender can offer similar features, but the question is, are you able to do the job as good, as fast, as stable, and as fluent as with other workflows you have here? So the answer is oftentimes no. Unfortunately, I don't think they have a big team at all for Blender set. I don't think they do have a team at all, big team at all. Maybe just 1 or 2 person, who knows. To work on this, you're not going to compete with hundreds of developers working on a dedicated software for sculpting, right? No matter how talented you are, you just can't compete with that. Okay, I think I made the ear too big now after doing all those adjustments, so I'm trying to get it to the correct size. A lot of move brush, because I like the move brush. I like it more than before. Okay. Now to add new object, of course you have to go to object mode, and let's turn off the origins. Shift A to go to mesh and UV sphere. Hit S to scale it down and drag it forward, make it smaller, and put it into the eye socket. Okay. And I need to mirror over to the other side. I believe there's a mirror modifier here. I need to pick the mirror object, so that's going to be my head. And Control 3 to give it a 3 subdivision level, or it's not subdivision level, it's basically like a smooth preview, a modifier on it. Okay, now back here to the head, I can now go back to sculpting, right? And then start working on this again. Okay, now you feel like this ways of transferring to different tools or different objects here. In ZBrush, this is going to be a subtool, right? The eyes will be a subtool. The subtool system is brilliant compared to Blender. Blender is kind of like you have to go to object mode, and then you select the other two. I know that's one more step only, but that really breaks your flow, right? Just because it's only one more operation, it's actually really frustrating. Right? You can do one operation in one software with one goal, right? And in another software that takes 2 operations, that's a really bad signal. It just feels like your speed is going to get reduced a lot just by just that one extra step to do that. Okay, so in ZBrush you just alt click and you're able to do that, and in here you do that extra step to go to object mode, and then you can select it. That alone is a big issue for me, I think. Anyway, alrighty. And then the lips, of course, right? So I like to use this dampener to dig in for the basic form of the separation here for the upper and lower lip. And then I can define the upper lip. It feels like an old way of doing this. I don't think I wanted to have this little of a geometry there, but again, I just don't feel like I know the tool enough yet to really quickly go to those different stages. Like I would already do a Dynamesh really quickly in ZBrush already, but here I need to think. I need to go here and say, okay, well, that has to be lower now. So let's do that from 0 to 2 maybe, and then Control R, right? And then it's Dynameshed. Okay. Maybe they have a different workflow. I don't know. Maybe you can use those Dynatopos thing, which you'll definitely use for maybe some detailing. Right, but for the basics, right, Dynamesh is in there. It's a little slower though compared to ZBrush. The question is again, you can off the feature, but that doesn't mean you're equivalent. It's just not that simple, right? Can you do it as fast? Can you do it as fluent compared to others? Oftentimes, it's might be a no, right? Let me fill in the node area, have some more variations there, and then maybe I need to give the top ridge some volume. Yeah, again, I could already be moving on to other things if I'm using ZBrush. This is taking me longer than it takes me in ZBrush for sure. Again, I think that's vastly because of I'm not familiar with this tool, not as much yet. But in terms of sculpting, the experience with it, it's not too bad at all. I think my guy needs some more personality. It feels too generic. It's just some basic tweaking, nothing fancy. Some global changes, maybe the hat can be a bit shorter. So movement brush is really helpful. It can help you to redefine some of the basic proportions if you don't like them. Right, really useful feature. And brush that is often overlooked, especially for beginners. But it's one of the essential brushes. Right, I can accept not having those fancy brushes like Snake Hook, for example, but I can't do without move brush. It's just it must be one of the brushes. Even I have only 3 brushes available, I will choose one of them to be the move brush because it's so much useful. Anyway, now we can jump into the realm of start doing some detailing and see how much we can push this tool to do skin detailing. And I think we can utilize some of the cool features here, like Dana Topo, for example, right? Which is Control D, I believe, to toggle that on. Right? It's on now here. Control D. Oops. Right. Okay. So this refine method is subdivide collapse. So let's toggle on the wireframe so we can see what it does. Using this, you can see it's based on the brush size, I believe. No, it's based on the value here, which is I don't know. Let's use the brush detail, right? I will use the brush size to determine the detail. So if the brush is smaller, I'm getting smaller details. Okay. So now what I can do is really jump in and start to think about to add more details here. So let me turn off the wireframe and then start. See, I'm using S. S is scaling. S is scaling in Blender, right? But it's the brush settings for ZBrush, so I'm still using ZBrush shortcuts. Right, right. So one of the brushes called the Simplified Brush. I don't know what it does, but I guess you just use it for retopologizing. Because now if I turn on the wireframe, and use that, I can retopologize its part by using a smaller brush. Yeah, that's gonna allow me to do that. And also I can go here, I guess, how about this? We use constant detail and resolution 3. Let's see how that does. It's really bad. How about 1? It's even worse. 10. Okay, I need to go for something higher, like 50. 120. Yeah, that's about the resolution I want to go for. So I can use that actually to retopologize everything before I even move on to do detailing. So you guys just go higher right, for these parts. And any part I think I need detail, I can retopologize that part and that part only. But this may not be a very nice workflow though. I think there might be better ways, because when you smooth these things, you'll see the very nasty behavior there. So not very nice. So I probably need to also go retopologize those things down the way somehow. Okay. But now I can smooth it out with some more detail in this case. And then I can use some of the basic brushes. Oh, again, I'm using S. Should have been using F in here. So I'm trying to define the eyelid with more detail. And here, one of the common trick we do is to mask an area here. First, for that extra fold on top of the eyelid, now we can use the move brush and just move it out. And drag it down, right, to define that. Very common practice. But you can see performance issue is already hitting in for the Dana topo. So let me press Ctrl D maybe to turn that out for now. I still feel like I have some performance issue for some weird reason. Dana topo is off for sure. Yeah, don't know why. Let me Alt M to turn off the masking, right? I still feel like a lot of things I am trying to do here, I would just brute force sculpt it in ZBrush. I don't really feel like I need to use those fancy techniques at all in ZBrush. Just because I got really familiar with the nature of those brushes, I can do it with sculpting. But here, you do feel like you are not quite sure you can do it. Right, anyway, so I'm gonna, you can feel like it's having performance issue already. That's the problem. I think that's one of the major problem of Blender. Like, I'm not even doing a lot of detailing. Seriously, this is nothing near either resolution wise or whatever to the level that's really needs to be concerned at all in ZBrush. But somehow I'm already hitting some bottlenecks. Don't know if that's just because I'm recording or something. Who knows? Because I think it's more relied on the video card. ZBrush is more CPU based, so it may not suffer at all when you're recording. Try to build the basic volumes for the facial fat or padding right on the face. Right. Corner of the eye needs some refinement. So the basic tricks that I do with those brushes sort of work. They're working on some extent, but you do feel differences and occasionally problems, right? When you're, again, I'm trying to make the brush bigger and was holding S button to do that. That's not the right thing to do here in Blender. And you can see this is having some performance issue. I still don't know why. Like, it's lagging already. Okay, all the tools I use is this thing called Gobi. You can get this thing to ZBrush and start working on that right away. So what you can do is you can just grab your model, right? Grab your model here in object mode and click on export. This will get this thing out to ZBrush and open ZBrush. and you can start working on that in ZBrush. So sometimes like I feel like I need to go to ZBrush and do something, I can do it this way. And I know that ZBrush is kind of like a paid software. It's more expensive, way more expensive for sure, but it is so much better as well. I don't know why there's a cube in there too. So I'm gonna delete that. And I guess the direction is wrong as well. So who knows? You can see I'm already trying to use Blender shortcut now. This is like a disaster. Come on, I don't even know how to operate at all after getting familiar with that. Right. But you can feel like the brush here is way more fluent. And if I want to build higher, you can see you can build really high. Right? See that? Go higher. However, if I show you that in Blender, I can actually go back here by just click on this guy. Or actually go Z and continue. This will bring it back to Blender. Right, if I want to do the same thing here, actually I have to toggle on the import to get it back in. Right, you can see that's updated. So if I want to use the clay strip, it just doesn't go that far. It just feels like there's a plateau it reaches. You can see I'm keep drawing here. It doesn't go further. Now this is not true in ZBrush. You keep on drawing, it keeps going further. Of course, that goes too far. But you see the difference here, right? So I think that they're similar, but not exactly the same in this case. All right. So let me go back to Blender now. Okay. So I guess this is hard to collaborate because those programmers don't do sculpting, so they probably don't know the difference. And even if they have an artist to comment on it, to give suggestions, it's really hard to tell, to really show them exactly what you mean sometimes. Like I guess that's gonna be really hard to communicate on smaller things like this. Or I don't know even if they even have an artist to test this. Right, so maybe they just don't know that there is some difference in here. I mean, I wouldn't imagine like a programmer able to use ZBrush as fluent as like a professional ZBrush artist. Right, so they just don't know. That's kind of ironic though. Like the one who make tools doesn't know the tool, what the need is, because they don't really do the work. That's really ironic. Like they could have done a much better job if they have been doing 3D work for themselves for like 2 or 3 years at least, even to understand, okay, that's the painful part of 3D production. And when they feel the pain, they know that they have to do it this way or the other way around, right? But, you know, not really feeling it. I can hardly imagine how they would even know what's needed. Because hearing it is one thing, but being able to really experience the pain, right? And believe me, there are a lot of pain in the production process of making those 3D thingy, modeling, animation, right? So if in whatever way they can feel it by themselves, I think that's when they really know, okay, I have to do it this way. It has to be done this way, right? So that's the problem of the topology, I guess. You can see that's not even, so smoothing wouldn't do a very good job here. So I guess smooth brush really also needs some improvement for smoothing things like this. This wouldn't work nicely at all. I'll get that in there. And how would they know this would be a problem if they don't sculpt, right? They just don't know. The developer wouldn't know. Okay. And the artist has to figure out a workaround, basically. That's very ironic, because it could have been addressed somehow in by the tooling part, right? But the way you create your tools and create your algorithm for smoothing internally. But apparently that's not that easy to discover even. An issue that they don't even know that exists. We turn off symmetry and then maybe have some fun here. See, I do feel quite a few lagging issues I'm experiencing here, so I'm assuming there is some performance issue. This wouldn't be an issue at all in ZBrush. Don't know why though. It's not that dense. But I can see myself working with Blender for sculpting. But I still don't see myself working on super realistic characters though. This is hard. Like the ability to use ZBrush to redo topology and subdivide it to switch to a subdivision level workflow is crucial for high resolution sculpting. You need that. You need the UV also, and there's a lot of tricks that I invented or learned from other people that just wouldn't be possible here yet, for like using displacement map as a base when adding skin detailing, right? And even those cool new features that you know every newer version of ZBrush is presenting is mind-boggling. Sometimes they're just changing the whole story, and I don't see a way that Blender can keep up at the moment, because it has to also support all other things, right? So it's not an easy job to do already for just doing sculpting features, and now you're asking them to compete with some tool that's dedicated for sculpting. So I still recommend anyone who say who want to be like, I want to be a character artist, where do I start? Should I learn Blender or ZBrush? ZBrush is still going to be my recommendation. Blender is not there yet. But maybe I'm wrong. If someone can point out, okay, that's not the way you do it in here, I would like to hear. Maybe there is kind of like just, it's not the workflow. Sometimes the different tool needs different workflow. I'm trying to superimpose my ZBrush workflow in Blender, of course. I need to find similar things, and maybe they're not supposed to be used in this kind of like combination. Maybe I shouldn't be using Dana Topo this way, or I shouldn't be, you know, doing whatever. Maybe I should be already retopologizing. I don't know, because topology has to be done at some point. Okay. Alright, I'm not trying to make something too good, because I really don't have time. But what I can do here though is to have some fun with the lip. For the lip, I wanted to have some more sculpted detail. So here I might go for like an even denser geometry, just to try to push the boundary here, push the limit. So what I'm trying to do here is to toggle on wireframe, right? And then I'm gonna go to this Simplified Brush, and then here for Dana Topo, toggle that on, and then 120 will be, I'm gonna make that higher, maybe 200. I really apologize this part to give it even more resolution. Okay, and then toggle that off. Okay, now I should be able to create more detail in there. So what I'm going to try to do is to draw the wrinkles out for the lip. I do very often in ZBrush just by drawing those out. Of course, if I adapt some more advanced workflow, this could be scanned data. That's another thing, like how do you apply those fancy techniques? Because those are all working around ZBrush. One way or the other, there's very established cool ways to utilize scanned data with ZBrush for super high resolution detailing. But again, how that is even you wanted to do that here, you'll have to spend a lot of time figuring out a workflow. You can see before I was trying to do the retopologizing, right, by using Dana Topo to have more resolution here. I went further than the lip because I know I need to smooth those guys, and the smoothing wouldn't work nicely if the resolution is very different. Okay, that's the upper lip. The lip is going to be similar. I guess I can define the ridge here first. I can define some more volume in here. And then I can use the assisting draw sharp, right, to draw out the wrinkles. Yeah, I should be able to achieve more resolution here in ZBrush as well, but I guess this is hitting the limitation again for Blender. Or maybe just the viewport, I don't know. ZBrush has this cheating way, I think, on the viewport to make the model look fancier. Somehow, when you bring the model into another package, it just instantly look worse for some reason. Don't know why. Okay. Anyway, so that you can see it's not going to smooth well in there. So I'm going to avoid doing that. His face looks super tight. Don't know why. But yeah, that's the basic impression, as like a ZBrush artist. or heavy ZBrush user right now trying to test sculpting with Blender, and that's my conclusion. It's not there yet compared to ZBrush. There are two major things. One is workflow. The workflow is things like the thing they have invented for things like data mesh, zero mesher. They either work faster or they work differently. That's just better than Blender when it comes to the workflow. I don't know if, of course, I could be wrong on some of the things. If you have your own workflow that just doesn't do the same thing I do, right? But from a ZBrush artist point of view, I don't see anything that's particularly like revolutionary or something that will make me switch to Blender for whatever reason that is yet. But that's subject to change in the future if somehow they did better on some of the things. Don't know, right? So workflow, right, which is very important, and also performance. Performance is a big downside. It's not as fast as what ZBrush can do. Okay, so that's the two major things. And how many polygons it supports, right? It's kind of important, right? Because sometimes you need to go for like a super high-res sculpting, right? Sometimes you need to create things like multiple UV tiles, those kind of things, may not be as fluent or not even possible sometimes, I guess, in Blender yet. Okay, I'm not sure how or who is developing this under the hood. Oh, I didn't do anything to the ear, but I guess I can just smooth it out. Okay. But I think it's worth just take a look at ZBrush, learn ZBrush on some extent, and see what you can learn from there. Now, it's not saying that ZBrush is just purely better. Right? I think it needs improvement from here and there. But the thing is, it has been there for a very long time. It's been supporting artists for the longest time possible for sculpting. There are things you need to learn from that package. Okay. Now, I really think it's important to ask average ZBrush artists. Don't ask the art lead, because it's been a while. Maybe they do it as ZBrush sculpt. Ask the guy who's sitting there and doing sculpting every day. That's the one who knows the nitty-gritties, right? Okay. Anyway, so that's basically my feeling about trying to use Blender. So if you have some comments on this, right, I would like to hear. I think this is the two that at least I think it's worth trying, right? Otherwise I wouldn't even try it, right? On other things that I've been learning, like the way it manages the scene with collection layer and the scene system is quite cool. The way you can reference and link stuff is very Houdini-like on some extent. So there are really nice things I like about this package. Rendering with Eevee is really nice, although I've heard that people hate how it behaves for production. Don't know why that is, because I haven't used it for production at all. So I don't have anything to say about that. Okay. I see it's able to replace Maya on a lot of things. But again, right, Maya has some killer features, like the quad draw tool for retopologizing is unmatched. Blender just requires a lot more steps to do that thing. ZBrush also, not even close to what Maya can do on that matter. UV editing, Maya has all those new refined tools and editors and all those smaller tweaks and knobs and stuff in there. That's just making things really easy to do, and you want it to be complicated, you can bring it to a very professional level for defining like quick texel density, things like that, moving UV tiles, pack them in different ways. Blender just wanted to do it automatic, but really that's not plausible. On some sense, you wanted to have manual control. I guess maybe I'm wrong about that. I haven't done much UV editing, but the way I feel when I'm watching some of the basic tutorials is like it's trying to do the layout for you, like the instance you cut it out. I don't know, that's weird. What if I don't want it to cut it? What if I wanted to cut it differently? Right? Why do you update those things all the time? Anyway, so right, I guess we can maybe do a quick render and see how this feels like. That's one of the super strengths of Blender. I can render it now if I wanted to, right? So go to object mode. Now I can hit Z button and go to the renderer, right? And you can see that's when ZBrush needs to learn. Your viewport doesn't do render nicely, your lighting system is capable, but really this is way more convenient than ZBrush, like way a million times better, right? And the fact that you can preview with shadow and everything, real-time rendering, that's a killing feature. Okay, and then give it a material, maybe have some substance scattering, right? Everything can be down there. If I want to have a copy of the light, I can just copy that and drag it over here, and I can easily set up a rim light. I can see it in real time. ZBrush really has to work on a nice renderer if you wanted to want people to not jump out from ZBrush to Blender or other packages. ZBrush renderer is really bad. Like I think everyone can agree on that. Alrighty, so that's my basic comment on like Blender sculpting and everything, the whole package. Again, if you have anything you wanted to say about it, I would like to hear. I was talking while sculpting, so this is not a very good sculpt, to be honest. It feels like it needs a lot of work. I'm not sure what's going on here. It feels super weird. The ears tilted in a weird way, and it's making a really weird expression as well. So anyway, well, thanks for watching. See you next time.